Happy Monday, everyone. What's going on? And welcome to your WWE Wrestlers Wrestling and Wrestling Rings review for August 15th, 2022. Raw was a pretty good show tonight, and the reason it was good is because we had really good in-ring wrestling between really good pieces of talent. And who would have thought that when you have a 3-hour show, if you just give us a few good wrestling matches every week that means something, might make for a good show. Shocker. So I'm glad WWE is beginning to figure this out now that the Triple H regime is well into its third or fourth week here, and Raws have been getting progressively better with each week. And you know that things really can't change overnight, but in terms of what Triple H is doing so far, in terms of some of the talent he's featuring every week and some of the storyline directions he's going in a very short amount of time, you can see positive changes already with the people he's brought back and with a lot of the rumors and speculation about things we could see coming up in the future in terms of more people showing up or name changes. They've teased that a lot with certain pieces of talent as well. Maybe we can get some last names coming back, or maybe drop their stupid gimmick altogether and reunite them with what got them over in NXT UK. Doudrop comes to mind when you think of someone like that. So there's a lot more we could see, and so far the little changes that we've seen on Raw and SmackDown in terms of the quality of TV and wrestling and segments have seen an improvement right off the bat, and it's been pretty fun to not treat Monday Night Raw like a chore. A lot of times it's a chore. A lot of times I don't even cover it. Remember back in the day, we used to do Raws every week, and eventually it just it got so old and wore so thin and grew so stale that I could no longer come up here every Monday and review a 3-hour show that sucked. So I was going to spare myself the misery and just only do Raw reviews here and there to catch up, and I was going to basically just stop watching them. So now that things have changed, and the biggest story of the decade, of the century so far, broke with Vince McMahon stepping away from WWE, and now this new Triple H era coming in creatively, it's really made the entire product, given it a 180 and a fresh look, and the fans are much more optimistic. The fans are much more eager to tune in now. They've seen ratings increases. The crowd looked pretty good for DC tonight. Apparently they got a sellout house for next week in Toronto with a couple of matches already announced for next week. So that's another thing you weren't seeing being done under Vince, is they had no fucking clue what they were going to do next week. They didn't even know that probably until 2 or 3 days or less before the following Monday. And a lot of times they were writing the show and then tearing it up and rewriting it just hours before showtime. So the fact that WWE is starting to have a little bit more of forward planning, they know where they want to go. That's what I mentioned on the podcast on Saturday in terms of Triple H staying one step ahead or 2 or 3 steps ahead of himself, where they want to go creatively and with feuds and whatnot. And that's what kind of makes Dynamite very cool, is I really like, after watching 2 great hours of wrestling on Wednesdays, Excalibur rolls through the entire card of what you're going to see next week. Number one, does that give me a reason now to want to tune in next week? Because I'm like, oh shit, that'll be a good match, that'll be a good match, that'll be a good match. But it also shows you that they've got a little bit more organization creatively behind the scenes, that they already know what they're doing a couple of weeks ahead. So now that we're seeing that return to WWE, because they used to be this way back in the Attitude Era, they were fighting head to head with WCW in the Monday Night Wars. They had their shit together back then, but it deteriorated and was rendered down to a pile of shit by the time we got to current times. Now with Vince gone, you can see Triple H trying to get a grasp on things a little bit more and just try not to fly by the seat of their pants so much. And when you do that, you can provide a lot better quality TV, and that's what they've been doing. And I think tonight's Raw, even though we didn't see anything too over the top or extraordinary, no big returns or anything like that, solid 3 hours of wrestling. Now, there was a couple of matches on here that under the Vince era, I could see the fans maybe getting upset with the outcome, but under Triple H, at least you have, the comfort of knowing, even if we don't agree with the finish here or there, at least in Triple H's mind, he's probably got the best interest of the talent at heart, and he's going to do whatever he can for them, where Vince, you never know what his reasonings are for doing anything. So at least Triple H mentally feels a little bit more stable. So if somebody that you think should get featured more takes a loss here or there or whatever, at least even though a mistake might be happening behind the scenes or something, at least it's like not out of malice or anything. Not that Triple H doesn't have that side of him, but I don't think that's a side of Triple H we're going to see until he is years into this job and he becomes grumpy and jaded and worn out and stressed out. Then maybe we might see a personality change in Triple H. But based on everything he's done in NXT and his legitimate care for the talent and wanting the best for them and for them to deliver the best entertainment possible. Can't be a better guy to have at the helm, at least in WWE's circle right now, than Triple H. And we've seen drastic and great improvement in the show so far. And tonight's show was an easy watch. I mean, 3 hours sucks. Kevin Nash put it best on his podcast a couple of weeks ago. It's like asking your audience to watch Titanic every Monday. And that's just gets old after a while, especially if you're just watching predictable shit. You know what's going to happen. It's boring and it's just not engaging. And there's just no, there's no substance to it at all. When you can watch 3 hours of wrestling on Monday and not be bored off your ass, that's kind of a good thing. So WWE still does their WWE shit that makes me roll my eyes, but at least I can watch the show and understand that most likely whatever I'm watching, there's a reason that they're doing it, and they're not just trying to flat out fill TV time, at least not yet. So we'll run through the results here in just a second. That's my overall view on the show. I thought it was good. We had some really good matches with the women, had a great tag team match. We had another excellent match between McIntyre and Kevin Owens with a great promo that came before it, which was great. AJ and Bobby Lashley was terrific, and I think Ziggler and Theory at the end wasn't half bad either. So overall, putting good wrestling matches in the ring and a couple of fresh-ish matchups provided a pretty good show tonight. So, and the Ezekiel stuff was hilarious. We'll talk about that as well. So lots to get into on the show, but I will do the pleasantry stuff first and welcome you to the channel. If you are not a subscriber, please do. Pretty decent uptick in subscribers the last couple of weeks. Really like to see that. So please tell your friends, try to get our subscriptions up. And if you don't mind, really help me out on those likes. I would love that very low number we have right now to beef up a little bit. If you guys could do that for me, I would really appreciate it. And that goes for all the free stuff. You can also become a member of the channel now. Channel memberships launched last week. They're up and running. We've got them working. You can click the join button right below this video or go down to the description where there's a link there. If you're watching on a device or whatever, that'll take you right over to all the options to join, where you can support, receive perks, receive members only incentives. We're going to do once a month Raw and Nitro watch-alongs. We're going to do a once-a-week members-only chat where only they can participate in the chat. All sorts of different perks like that, not to mention the little flashy emojis and recognition you'll get. Plus, I'm going to shout you out whenever you become a member, and I see it. I'll make sure to welcome you to the family and thank you, and we'll be doing weekly shout-outs in terms of all the members. We had a bunch of people sign up in the very first day, which was great, and I appreciate the support, and I'm happy that this is now underway. So click the button for details if you would like to support, but if you don't want to support, no problem. Just click the like button, make sure you subscribe, and watch this video. That's all I really want at the end of the day. So that basically does it for the pleasantries. Like I said, I want to shout out everybody in the chat as well. We are back to balls to the wall streams this week. This is our third night in a row. We had Saturday's podcast, SummerSlam 1990 watch along last night, which was a lot of fun. Thank you to everyone who joined us for that. And then, of course, we're up here for tonight for the Raw review, and we'll be back on Wednesday after, I think, a 2 or 3 week break for our Dynamite live reactions. I've been very busy at work this summer, so the last couple of Wednesdays I've needed to be there. But this week I'm available to do the live reaction, and I've missed a couple of good ones. Quake by the Lake was good last week, and the show before that was fantastic. And there's a pretty good looking card Wednesday as well. So we will be back on Wednesday. Keep that in mind for this week. And then, of course, podcast, all that stuff coming up. I want to say hello to Roderick and Rarely Even. Channel member Zach Palgett is in the house. Appreciate you being here, my friend. What's up to you? Sam is here. Rodrigo, JJ Leg, another channel member in the house. Super Pony, Rarely Even. Rodrigo, Raheem, Jonathan is here. Sister, Sinister Rain. Jonathan King, Alex freaking Bryant in the house. Jay Lambo, Jonathan King, Destiny, Alex. Might already got you. Sonic Plays. Ben is in the house. So is Victor. Another great channel member. We've got Michael Cuomo. He's the man, of course, our top Patreon supporter there, and brand new channel member as well. A lot of members in the house already. Glad you guys are here. Spaz Phoenix chiming in with $10. Thank you, dude. What's up, Greg? How you doing, man? Chat, how you all living? Episode 2 of the Triple H era miniseries is up available now, and I will be at Raw next week. Watch my fire-breathing Twitter machine. That's right. Spaz, you live in Toronto. Raw's in Toronto next week. It looks like it's going to be a good show. They already have Damian Priest and Edge set for that. apparently it's going to be a sellout house for Toronto. Would be a perfect place to bring someone back or have some sort of a surprise if you're going to have such a big crowd on the show. And if you're going to hype it, people are going to tune in. Ratings have been doing pretty well for WWE. You should deliver something pretty decent next week. I'm looking forward to that. I hope you have fun. Whenever you can be a part of a sellout building on a show that you know is going to be good, the atmosphere is always fun, and it's a blast. So head over to Spaz Phoenix's YouTube channel. Give him a subscription. Show him some love, and thanks again for being here. I want to shout out Ronnie Matthews, who's in the house. Good to see you, man. Big J is here as well. Big Dub, Stephen Harris, Andy Linnell. We've got... FRGN is here. What's up, man? Was a guest on their podcast not long ago. Good dudes over there. Actually, I think that was at my old apartment, so that's been a while. But good to see you, and welcome back, man. Steven, did I get you? I'm not sure. And Chris Barrera, thank you very much, and welcome to the family. My new kayfabe brother. Appreciate you joining and becoming a channel member. That is awesome. Appreciate you being here. You're going to be able to participate in a lot of the perks now. Thank you so much, my friend, and welcome to the family. All right, that should at least knock out the shout-outs, all the BS. I've already given you my overall thoughts on Raw tonight. Like I said, I did enjoy the show, or at least I wasn't finding it torturous to watch it. Normally, it's like, when will this get over so I can cook dinner and eat and watch a movie or whatever? But tonight, it was actually a really pleasant watch. I enjoyed it. And like I said, I just think overall, not only have we read recently that morale has really taken a big step up in WWE behind the scenes since Vince's departure. I think morale just overall with the fans has done a little bit better as well and has improved just a little bit. You still got the tribals that are being fucking stupid, of course, but regular people with functioning brains are enjoying, the optimism of saying, hey, Raw might be decent this week. SmackDown might be decent this week. Castlevania might actually be good instead of just, a throwaway, glorified WrestleMania. Actually, they might have some shit going down there. It's going to be a good pay-per-view. And we might even not have a boring fall and winter months either. So there's a lot to look forward to on the horizon with WWE and to see where Triple H takes the company creatively as we march into 2023 and WrestleMania next year that I will be at, by the way, in LA. So when there's two companies doing really good stuff, because I'm equally as entertained by everything that's going on in AEW for the most part, even though they need some help here or there, I'm still very happy with what I watch on Wednesdays and most Fridays. Not all Fridays, but most of the time, Rampage is a very easy 1 hour watch. And to have two good options instead of one sucking and one being good, or, vice versa, it's nice just to have two solid pro wrestling options if you are a pro wrestling fan. As somebody who is now in my mid-40s, I turn 45 in just a couple of weeks. I lived through the Attitude Era, and I lived the best times when you had WCW and WWE pitted against each other. Nothing that we've seen has come close to that up until this point. I'm not saying, so don't freak out like Twitter probably would if I tweeted this, but WWE and AEW is the closest thing that we've had to WWE and WCW back in the day. TNA didn't even accomplish this. Even that 5 seconds they were head-to-head with Raw, you could tell that they just weren't, they were completely overmatched, and they just didn't have the formula. AEW's got a little bit more, stability, a lot more funding behind them, a lot more money. They're on cable TV. They seem to have a pretty secure deal there. I don't think with their ratings that they're ever going to have to worry about being canceled or knocked off a network. Even if they leave TNT and TBS, they'll get another deal somewhere. And that's great to see that we have two companies doing that, where you watch WWE show, it's pretty good. You watch AEW show, it's pretty good. And the fact that we're sitting here right now saying that out loud, you got to be a horribly miserable person in life to find anything negative about that at all. So to me, that's what's good. Is every Raw going to be a home run? No. Is every Dynamite going to be a home run? No, even though most of them are. But with even under Triple H, even with Vince gone, I still think there are going to be plenty of times where we're going to watch an underwhelming Raw or SmackDown. That's largely in part because of Triple H's own words on that Austin podcast all those years ago, where he illustrated and mentioned how incredibly difficult it is to produce 3 hours of TV as opposed to 2, and it's just way too much. So you're still going to have those type of episodes because it's WWE, but overall, at least right now, I think they're providing some pretty decent shows, and that's what counts. So let's get into the show. tonight. Monday Night Raw was in Washington, D.C. We had our pal Deshaun Robinson, who was in the house for this, tweeted me a couple of pictures from his seats. He looked to be behind the announce table, maybe, 10 to 20 rows back, something like that. Pretty decent seats, and I hope you had a good time, and thank you for the pictures. Did you just bust in here? You did. All right, before we get into that, I got to say hi to Deshaun because you're the one I just mentioned, and then I saw your comment come through. Thank you very much for dropping in $10, Deshaun. Like I said, you were there, so let's see what you had to say. Hey, Greg and Chad, I hope everyone enjoyed Raw tonight as much as I did. Don't know how it came off on TV, but the crowd was awesome. I was 2 feet from Rollins on the concourse when he ran from Riddle. No kidding. Oh, that's where. Oh, yeah, shit. It is where your seats were. He probably did run right past you. That's cool. 8 out of 10. Well, I appreciate that. Glad you made it home already, and I'm glad the show was fun. The crowd did come off pretty good. The crowd looked jacked. I don't know how the other side of the building looked, but at least they had that one all 3 levels. I didn't realize how large the DC arena was, but unless it was, they staged it again where you just put everybody on one side, it looked to be a pretty good crowd as well. But I'm glad you had a good time. Thanks for that information. Appreciate the super chat, Deshaun. And glad you had a good time. Thanks for being here. But let's get into Raw tonight. The show opened up with a promo, Judgment Day promo. And, of course, we've seen what the Judgment Day has been doing the past few weeks to the Mysterios, specifically with Rhea Ripley, torturing poor Dominic, lucky kid. She is just beating his ass every week. And last week, she dragged his ass out to the ring, and he's all out to the ramp where he's bloody. And she has been having her way with Dominic for the past couple of weeks. So they get to the ring, start cutting the promo. Priest talks first. He starts hyping up his match next week with Edge that they already have set in Toronto in Edge's hometown. Then Balor speaks for a while, and he mentions that the Mysterios, maybe it was Priest that mentioned this, one of them mentioned that the Mysterios are not here. And after they both said their piece, I think Priest even claimed that next week he is going to retire Edge. He's going to beat him so bad he'll have to retire. I think that's what I left out there. But as they're talking, Rey Mysterio does attack them from behind. The lights are down so they don't see him. He comes in underneath the bottom rope, starts whacking him with a chair. But there's one of him, Dominic's not with him, and there's 3 of them, and he's got Priest down, and then he goes to hit Balor with a chair, but Rhea scoots in and protects Balor, and of course Rey doesn't want to hit Rhea Ripley because she's a woman, and then he gets taken out by the Judgment Day. They regain control on him, put him down, and of course Finn Balor then hits the coup de grace on the chair, smashing poor Rey Mysterio and laying him out. So we've got Priest and Edge next week. There's been some teases with Dominic eventually maybe turning on his dad. It finally looks like Dominic, there are some dimensions actually to his personality because he was really upset with Rey for not having his back and taking the side of Edge. And then, of course, he's been getting his ass kicked by a girl, for the past 3 weeks. He's starting to have the haircut of Eddie Guerrero, the very man that fought in a ladder match for his own custody at SummerSlam all those years ago. He's been wearing, the Scarface mock shirt, although so has Rey. But I feel like if you're ever, and I've been calling for the Dominic heel turn since the minute he got to TV, since the Thunderdome. And I said, if you're ever going to turn Dominic, this is it, or it's never going to happen or whatnot. I think that they're at least setting up for something here. So we'll see if Dominic does wind up doing the turn where he claims that Eddie is his real father. I mean, he does look, he's taller than Rey, and he seems like he could maybe pass for Eddie's son. I don't know. But if they tied that in somehow, that might make it kind of fun. I don't know. We'll see what they do. But Rey got taken out. Judgment Day stands tall. We'll see what happens next week with Edge. We could see Beth Phoenix get involved at some point as well to take out Rhea Ripley because Rhea, she hasn't been able, she's kind of been a shield there. She's been able to protect herself by helping out Balor while she knows the baby faces aren't going to hit her and that Edge won't spear her. But maybe she can find herself in a similar situation where Edge now is going to spear Priest next week, and then Rhea runs into the ring to block it. And then she's like, you're not going to spear me, and then he goes, oh, I won't, but She will, and then Rhea turns around, Beth Phoenix spears her, and then Edge, or maybe just takes her down, and they start brawling on the outside of the ring. That's probably what happens. Beth just grabs her, and the two spill to the outside. They're brawling, maybe even over the barricade or something, and everybody's distracted by this. Damian Priest is watching all this go down, and of course he turns around, boom, eats a spear from the hometown babyface Edge, and gets pinned next week in the match in Toronto. I feel like they could maybe do something like that, unless they want to save Beth Phoenix for another time and she comes in to help Edge down the road. But it feels like with Rhea Ripley there and Edge's pursuit of wiping out the Judgment Day, eventually somebody's going to have to get to Rhea. Nobody's been able to get to her yet. So maybe Beth comes back and stands with her husband to take down these fools. We will see. The first match of the night was the tag team tournament match between Asuka and Alexa Bliss taking on Doudrop and Nikki ASH. Now, Nikki ASH comes out to the ring first. She seems like, I didn't see the segment last week where apparently Doudrop gave her the leather jacket, but she seems a little bit more darkly dressed, not as bright and blue as she used to be, more of a dark blue or a dark navy blue. She's got really bright red lipstick on as well. Her mask is darker. And, of course, Doudrop, I guess they're trying to look more like a team and kind of match a little bit. But it's weird to see this when Nikki's old partner, Alexa, is on the other side. And these teams are really kind of mashed together. And I do like some of the rumors of perhaps Doudrop and Nikki ASH shedding these stupid gimmicks, because hopefully Triple H will not have the mindset that the fans are too stupid to know the difference between Karrion Kross and Nikki Cross. And if they're able to have Nikki shed the gimmick or burn it in a trash can or something and go back to kind of being the crazy person, because she was great in NXT as a part of Sanity. I'll play with you, Becky. Remember all that? She's great. So if she could go back to doing that, that would be a lot of fun. And of course, let's not even get started on Doudrop, because we could talk for 2 hours about how ridiculous that shit is. So if she goes back to being Piper Niven, ASH goes back to being Cross, that could be fun. And maybe, them losing here will be the beginning of that. And that's what I put on Twitter tonight. I said, I hope they lose this match and they change their names, because it's a terrible team and they're two terrible names and terrible gimmicks. So let's end it. Plus, Asuka and Alexa have got the deal already going on with Io Sky and Dakota Kai, who both won their opening round match in the tournament last week. So they're going to face the winners of this one. So the one kind of shitty thing about this match is it was incredibly predictable, because they're also going to face a Clash in the Castle in that 6-woman with Bayley and Bianca involved. So you know who's going to win this here. And of course, they did. Dakota Sky and Kai won. Winner faces Dakota Kai and Io Sky, but Asuka tapped out Doudrop as Alexa simultaneously nails Nikki ASH on the outside of the ring, taking her out. But what I noticed is very early on in the match, I thought it was her lipstick at first, but Nikki ASH actually got busted open on her lip like within the first 2 minutes of the match. So the very first match WWE has on Raw tonight, within the first 2 minutes, less than 2 minutes, and somebody's already bleeding. Already. That's how quick WWE's using the blood. It's overkill. It's overkill. And they would do it again here later on, which is ridiculous. After the win, Asuka and Alexa start leaving the ring, but Bayley and crew are standing there in the aisleway to confront them. It should be noted that Bianca Belair was also at ringside for this to back up her girls, because they are, of course, teaming together at Castlevania. So there was kind of a pull apart there, stare down in the aisleway to set up the big 6-woman coming up at Clash. But we also have now these two teams facing each other in the semifinals next week for the tag team titles. So we'll see how that goes. Up next, Austin Theory Theory, I should say, backstage. We haven't seen him since SummerSlam. He was flapping his gums about the briefcase. Dolph Ziggler shows up and talks about how you have to earn the briefcase and respect the briefcase, and talked about when he cashed it in, which has been, 9 years ago now? 2013 against Alberto Del Rio, right? My God. Feels like not that long, but it's been nearly a decade since that happened. And then the two of them wind up brawling, and they brawl hard. They spill out of the interview area, and now they're all backstage, and the brawl seemingly continues as they go to commercial. Our next matchup is another tag match between The Miz and Champa, taking on Mustafa Ali and Cedric Alexander. So these two are trying to make some waves in the company. I kind of think they should just reunite the Hurt Business, and that would take care of Cedric. Ali, I felt so bad about him wanting his release and not it not being granted. Now with Triple H back, Ali was one of the guys that was on my radar that was probably going to benefit the most, because I think, or I was hoping or speculating anyway, that one of two things would happen with Ali. Triple H would either push him and give him an opportunity to actually win some matches and win a championship and have a run, or let him have his release. I don't feel like Triple H would be the type of guy to be spiteful like that. Although Triple H is simply head of creative, I don't know how much full stroke he has, but I guess he's head of talent relations right now. Maybe he's trying to make all these moves while he still has that title, because then at some point that's going to move to somebody else who's going to handle the contracts and the reaching out and the negotiations and things like that. So I thought Ali would either get one of two things. He would either get let go or he would actually get a push, but that has not started yet. But that's okay, because Miz and Champa kind of got a bigger deal going on right now. Ali and Cedric are literally thrown together. Triple H, if I had to guess, I think Triple H just hasn't gotten to these two guys yet. Of all the things he's trying to fix, it's like when you've got your dam is bursting and you got all these leaks bursting in your dam. You got to plug the big holes first and then start worrying about some of the smaller holes, but just get everything plugged. Maybe he just hasn't gotten around to deciding how he wants to utilize these guys, because they literally will be starting from scratch, because in all the years they've been there, WWE's done a big pile of dick with them both. So except for that very brief run that Cedric had with the Hurt Business and his brief run as Cruiserweight champion, other than that, he's just there, and he shouldn't be just there, because he's great. So is Ali. So hopefully these two will figure it out. It's not their time yet. Before the match, this was great. Miz and Champa are doing an interview backstage at Gorilla or something, and Miz gifts Champa with, I guess, like a trading card of the two of them hugging from a couple of weeks ago, with Miz with his arms around Champa, and they both have their eyes closed, and they look to be in just blissful love. It's sweet. It's really sweet. And the cards are bedazzled in a diamond-studded frame, and they're on a diamond necklace or diamond chain. And he gives it to him, and he goes, "And I got one too." They look like backstage passes almost, but they're like friendship bracelets, but for ballers. And they both wear their bedazzled trading card necklace love thing, which both also look to be professionally graded. They're graded with the numbers on it and everything. So I don't know if they're gem mints or whatever they're called, but they're fully graded trading cards in a diamond-studded frame on a necklace chain that they both can wear to symbolize their friendship with each other, and that just melts my heart. So adorbs. Anyway, they are victorious in their match with Ali and Cedric. In the match, however, though, second match in, just a few minutes into the match, busted nose on The Miz. 2 straight matches. Every single match, WWE has to have blood. It's overkill. They're going to ruin the concept of blood by having everybody bleed all the time. First, it's Nikki ASH, literally 1 minute into the match, and now The Miz does it too. Wake up, Triple H. The fans don't like blood. Ugh. Jesus. But anyway, Champa and Miz score the victory there. I loved their outfits. I loved their trading card necklaces. The whole thing was magic and fun stuff. I don't see them remaining a team for very long. The team is ridiculous. Champa, it gives him something to do that's not just sitting and catering, so that's good. But anybody that The Miz ever associates himself with is going to be a short-lived partnership. You know that. So he will not be with Champa very long. If this is a partnership or an alliance that just doesn't do anything for you, I think just a little bit of patience on this, and you're not going to have to deal with it for too much longer. So we'll see if it winds up being a face turn for Champa, or if it winds up turning into or tying into an inevitable Gargano return at some point. We will see. After that, we got an update on the condition of Ezekiel, who, of course, was on the receiving end of an absolutely brutal attack from Kevin Owens, unprovoked attack before their spirited contest that they were about to have last week. Owens cheap shot at Ezekiel, knocked him on the outside of the ring, and gave him the apron power bomb, breaking his poor back in half. He was taken away on a stretcher and in an ambulance, and we got an update on Ezekiel. We got a photo of the entire family with Ezekiel laying in the bed. You saw his father there, who had a few choice words for Kevin Owens and said that if he ever runs into Kevin Owens, he's going to give him a piece of his mind. So watch out for Ernie Jr., because he could be coming after you, Kevin. We saw Owens' mother. We saw family members, his little brother, his tiny little brother. We saw, Ezekiel's little brother. And, of course, big brother Elias was at his bedside as well, and Elias looked none too happy. So I wouldn't be surprised if Elias goes Kevin Owens hunting and we see him showing up pretty soon on TV. We'll find out. But the best of luck and best wishes out to Ezekiel on your recovery. We love you, and hopefully we can see you back on TV real soon. As much as I love Kevin Owens, it was not cool what he did to you just because he's bitter, because he can't tell two men who are clearly different people apart. That's not our fault. It's not Ezekiel's fault. It's not Elias's fault. This is all on Kevin Owens. But my criticisms of Kevin Owens are going to end there, because Kevin Owens tonight was a part, I think, of one of the more fun promos in WWE that we've seen in recent months with Drew McIntyre and Kevin Owens. Now, normally Drew's promos, they don't really grasp your attention, although I will always have Drew McIntyre's back. What I like about Drew McIntyre is he's always on one. I mean, he is just always ready to go. A lot of his promos are extremely energetic. He is not phoning any of these things in. He seems to be extremely enthusiastic, and he's always just been a guy that's just gone out there and done his job. I think some of the fans kind of grew tired of him a little bit, found him to be a little bit stale when he won the title in the Performance Center and had to have his run in the Thunderdome and all of that. If he was able to win that in a normal WrestleMania moment, maybe things could have gone a little bit better for McIntyre in that sense. But I still think that the dude is a stud. He's a good wrestler. He's got a great look. I don't think he's horrible on the mic, even though some fans don't find him that interesting. There's not much, that he needs to do. He's just a big fucking ass-kicking badass. So I'm fine with that presentation of Drew. Always have been. So I think a lot of times once you become champion, fans tend to want to bring you down a bit. But I've always maintained my appreciation for McIntyre and his work. And like I said, he's always just ready to go. He has been doing, in between his title runs, he's been doing angles and being a part of things that I kind of find boring. But he finds a way to make it good. Even his program with Sheamus. Sheamus deserves a lot of credit for that too. But their history and how many times they've picked the issue back up between them, the multiple matches and rematches and pay-per-view matches we've seen between those guys, they always manage to make it good. And Drew, no matter what he has to do, whether it's facing Sheamus, facing Madcap Moss, facing Baron Corbin, whatever it is, he just goes out there and does it. He seems like a company guy, totally professional guy. And if you're somebody that criticizes what Naomi and Sasha did, you should like Drew McIntyre. He should be a guy that you should be comfortable with, because he doesn't seem to be a guy that would ever do anything like that. He always shows up to work and does what he's told, and he always does it with a lot of enthusiasm. So he came out pretty jacked up for this promo. He got in the ring and he was bouncing around, and a couple of really interesting things happened. He first starts talking about his match coming up at Castlevania against Roman Reigns. This is, at least for right now, is for the unified title, unified universal title, or whatever the hell they're calling it right now. It's for both titles, not just one. Some of us were thinking that WWE might be splitting these titles off now that Karrion Kross has reappeared and maybe he can be worked into this. Looks like they're still going Drew Roman one-on-one. And McIntyre starts talking about Roman Reigns being champion, and that the WWE Raw crowd, the WWE SmackDown crowd, the live event crowd deserves to have a title there. He's showing up on Raw on his day off, and here Roman Reigns is absent every single week. He's never here, and the fans deserve to see the championship when they buy a ticket to the show. And then he kind of does this shoulder thing, and he kind of does something with his hand there too. But the shoulder thing, I'm like, what was that? And I'm like, is that a Moxley reference? Because Moxley is doing the opposite of what Roman Reigns is doing. Moxley is wrestling every week. He's making a point to wrestle every week on Dynamite or Rampage, sometimes both. Many of these times he's putting the interim title on the line. And he even has been doing indie shots and had the match over the weekend with Effie that people have big opinions of course, because why wouldn't they? I thought it was great. And I think Moxley is a fun champion, and he goes out there and does stuff, and he wrestles, and he's a fighting one, and he does things his way. He's certainly making the belt a presence on every AEW program, to the point where, hell, he's even working stuff on the side. He's got side gigs everywhere. So I think maybe McIntyre was subtly telling Roman that Moxley's better than him with the little shoulder thing. I could be way off on that. I don't know what that was that McIntyre did, but that caught my attention when he did that. And then we get Kevin Owens showing up to the stage, and he comes out with the mic and he gets in the ring. And the two of them proceed to cut a really fun little promo on each other. Owens is fantastic. And McIntyre, like I said, he's super amped up. And as they are arguing, and basically they are about to come to blows here, McIntyre basically just lays down a challenge and he says, you know what? We are wrestlers and we're standing in a wrestling ring, so let's wrestle. And he just screams this out. And if that isn't a direct message to Vince McMahon, I don't know what is. I mean, we are wrestlers standing in a wrestling ring, so let's wrestle. Is that a sentence you would have ever expected to hear under Vince McMahon's watch ever? So now that he's gone, these things are being brought back. WWE or Triple H anyway is saying, no, this is ridiculous. We are wrestlers. This is what we do. To pretend wrestling isn't even a thing and we don't even do it is extremely ignorant, and we're not going to do that shit anymore. And we're not going to limit the vocabulary of our stars, and we're going to call things what they are. And I love that. I think we are wrestlers in a wrestling ring, so let's wrestle should be written in old English lettering and lit up in LED lights on every WWE ring apron, on every live event Raw and pay-per-view. It's exactly the motto that the company should live by. So that is great. And I'll tell you this, on Wednesday, if the Jericho Appreciation Society does not cut a promo and say, we are sports entertainers standing in a sports entertainment ring, so let's sports entertain, then what are we even doing here? They got to do that on Wednesday. Jericho, you listening? Have Menard do that line, or whoever the hell does it. Have him do it. Somebody's got to say it. You have to say it. You have to say it. You can't not say it. So that was great. And Owens, to his credit, is like, all right, let's do it. And he accepts the challenge. We go to commercial. We come back. And we've got an impromptu one-on-one match between McIntyre and Kevin Owens. And it was a banger. Oh, my God. This is what it's all about. You got a match between two in the best of the biz. They're given time to actually wrestle. It feels like there's some sort of stakes or some reason to have the match because of the fantastic promo they just cut. And, both guys should be very close to getting a world title or world title shot really soon. Of course, McIntyre coming up with his shot against Roman Reigns that not many people feel he will be successful in, but we don't know for sure. And Kevin Owens, I can't even fathom a scenario where this guy's not world champion within the next 12 months. If they do not put one of those titles on him between now and 1 year from today, August 15th, 2023, it's going to be a crime. And it would make me disappointed in Triple H. Kevin Owens is one of the best pieces of talent they have going there. So is Sami Zayn. Owens, they obviously think highly of him. They re-signed him, put him in the main event with Steve Austin at WrestleMania. He has had a 6-year gap between his world title runs that I think he picked up that Universal title, second guy to ever hold it just about 6 years ago to this day, right? Back in 2016, right after SummerSlam. So he's long overdue, and it's time. And I think if we wait any longer than a year on this guy, it's going to be way too long. I wouldn't even totally rule it out for 2022, but I hope he's world champion again very soon because he's too ridiculously good. And the match was so good. The near falls, the battling, the brawling, it was real stiff too. And the funny thing is I had just read, or we had read this week, that Drew is working through a back injury. So maybe it's one that he can't injure anymore, but they were saying he needed rest and no surgery would be required, but he's got to take it easy. He was certainly not taking it easy tonight. Him and Kevin Owens are beating the hell out of each other, and it was really good, quite good. Unfortunately, though, the match did end in a disqualification when McIntyre finally gets Kevin Owens down. He's going for the Claymore, and the Usos show up, grab McIntyre's leg, attack McIntyre, and there's a big brawl. McIntyre did fight back and dished out quite an ass-kicking to the Usos as well, and he picked up the win via DQ. I'm fine with it, We don't like DQ endings a lot of times, certainly don't like non-finishes or double DQ endings, and a lot of times you don't like to see it when you have a match that was this good, when you have a match that was this hard-hitting and this exciting and that kept the fans on the edge of their seat. It really kills your buzz when you do some sort of a DQ finish like that, and a lot of the fans in DC were booing it. But in this instance, I am okay with it. I'll let it slide because of how good the segment was, because of how good the match was, and the fact that I didn't really want to see either one of those guys lose right now. I don't want to see Owens take a loss, and McIntyre's got a big match coming up with Roman, so you're not going to beat him. You kind of almost had to do a DQ ending here, plus it was an impromptu match, another subtle little trick that Triple H did that made it okay. If they would have advertised this a week ago and then done the DQ finish, maybe fans would have been a little bit more upset. Like, man, you hyped that up for a week just to do that? But at least here you put it in the impromptu, template there where they just kind of gave it to you and gave you a banger match, and then we had a DQ, and it's a little bit easier of a pill to swallow. So I think it was a smart way to book it, and it's one of those instances where I'm okay with the DQ. Sometimes it is okay to do those. It's not a good way. It's not a good thing to use them all the time, and it's not a good reason. It's not a good thing to constantly use them as a way out of matches where you don't want anybody to lose. But when you structure it like this, I think it turned out okay, and the match was fun. So hopefully more big things from Kevin Owens and McIntyre coming up down the line. We also had the Rollins and Riddle segment. Now, Riddle was advertised to be on the show via satellite to give an update on his health and his condition, because the last two times we've seen him on TV, he's gotten worked over pretty good by Seth Rollins. And Rollins comes out to the ring wearing some ridiculous stuff that he must have borrowed from Becky's closet. I'm sure there are times when the two of them get their outfits and their wardrobes confused. I wouldn't doubt it at all with what they wear. So he's out there in the most ridiculous stuff I've ever seen. Riddle is going to do his interview from the Tron in his mom's basement, according to Rollins. Rollins tells us all that that's where Riddle will be broadcasting from his mom's basement, to tell us that he's going to retire. So Seth's in the ring being obnoxious, and Riddle is on the screen, and he goes, "Bro, I do have an update, and I want to tell it to you if that's okay." And he goes, "I'm medically cleared, bro." And Seth kind of laughs that off. Seth thought that Riddle was going to retire. Riddle says that he's medically cleared, and Seth's like, "Okay, fine. And another thing, bro, I'm also not in my mom's basement. I'm right backstage." And then he tears off the mic and he reveals that he's just right behind the Tron, which is hilarious because before commercial, they cut to him getting mic'd up for the interview, sitting in the chair. Personnel, makeup, hair makeup is around him, or producers are around him, or whatever. And he's about to do this interview. I guess nobody's around him. He's just staring. But when you're going to do an interview like this, you're going to have a crew of people around you. And then when he reveals that he's backstage and he runs to the ring, it's not even a very far run. He gets up from the chair, runs around the corner, and he's in the entranceway. So how did Seth not see him getting mic'd up when he was coming to the ring earlier? How did Seth not see him in catering? I guess it's plausible you could hide Riddle in a bus or something during the day, but he was literally right there. So Riddle reveals that he's just behind the scenes, sprints to the ring, attacks Rollins, starts kicking his ass. Rollins then turns the tables, gets Riddle down, and he's got him pinned again on the table, and it looks like he's going to end Riddle once and for all. He goes for the stomp to Riddle on the table. Riddle moves, catches Rollins with a knee to the face. Rollins spills over the barricade, and he starts taking off through the crowd as Riddle chases him up the entranceway. And I want to welcome brand new family member, Deshaun Robinson. Welcome, man. Appreciate you becoming a channel member. Thanks for joining. And you were at Raw tonight, and you just mentioned earlier on that Rollins was 2 feet away from you when he was scurrying away from Riddle, trying to get away from everybody. So I'm glad that you had a good time at the show, and thank you for becoming a channel member, Deshaun. You're the best, one of the best here. The crowd pop was huge when Riddle said he was in DC and not at home. Yeah, I mean, you kind of thought he was. I mean, they had the backdrop, and that wasn't a huge surprise to me, but I bet it did get a nice pop. And then Rollins' tune changed a little bit because he kind of laughed off when Riddle said he was cleared. But then when he ran out there to attack him, Seth was a little bit more, let's just say, worried. So after the brawl is over and Rollins runs away, we get Riddle interviewed backstage after the commercial where he officially lays down the challenge to Seth Rollins for Castlevania. We knew that was going to happen once they decided to scrap Rollins and Riddle for SummerSlam because maybe Triple H felt it didn't have enough build or whatever, but they're putting it at the Clash instead, which I guess is a good move because SummerSlam still turned out to be a good show, and now you give the Clash this match the first time instead of giving the fans over there the rematch, you know? So it's nice. Triple H did a nice thing. He did a nice thing. Applaud Triple H for that one. So I'm looking forward to Rollins and Riddle one-on-one at a pay-per-view, that big stadium show. That's going to be good. And I'm sure their issue will continue from here. We'll see. Good stuff. After that, we had Veer Mahan coming out to destroy a local indie guy. I didn't catch his name. I think I caught his name, but I'm not sure. Did they say it was Bo Keller? Some jobber or something, and I just don't understand why WWE does this. I understand that Triple H is just trying to be cool by, you know, having indie guys come work Monday Night Raw, but how are the casuals supposed to know who this guy is? Do they expect us to Google someone's name to find out who they are? We're not here to learn. We're here to watch wrestling, and nobody knows who this guy is. Nobody's going to know. Every time Triple H does this and brings one of these indie guys out there to work a match on Raw, nobody knows. He gets no reaction from the fans, and I know you're trying to cater to the hardcore audience, but, you know, that leaves casuals like us, you know, just out in the cold, and we don't know who anybody is, and we have no way of finding this out. We have no way of finding this out. They say we can Google it, but I don't know. Like, what do? You type it on the keyboard, like you push G. Like, I don't even know. Like, how do you Google something? But, like, once I figure out how to do that, maybe it'll help. But until then, Triple H needs to stop this nonsense of bringing these guys out on TV who nobody knows who they are. They've never been on TV. They have no exposure. You know, only the hardcore, pimply-faced fucks who live in their mom's basement know who these guys are. But we don't know. And it's enough of this stuff. It's becoming old, and I think Triple H needs to stop, you know, trying to be so cool and put down the blow. You know, put away the cocaine and just try to do your job like a professional. Mr. I got all my money from Vince McMahon. Ugh, God. Anyway, after that, we had a fantastic U.S. title match. Bobby Lashley defending the United States title against AJ Styles. They did another nice hype package for Bobby Lashley and the prestige of the United States title, which I love that they're doing that. And this is really kind of the first showdown between these two, which can't be true, but that's the way they were hyping it. It's definitely not a match we've seen a lot of. But I've been looking forward to this one all week because I like that in Roman Reigns' absence, Triple H is giving us quality U.S. and IC title matches on Raw and SmackDown. I'm curious if we're going to get another one next week. You know, might not have to do them every week, but do them as frequently as you can, maybe at least as frequently as AEW does with the TNT title. And that's what I wanted to see for both of these championships all along. And I'm glad that Triple H is making them a big deal, and they have another big advertised match that began at the top of the hour between Lashley and AJ. I kind of thought this would be the main event, but at the same time, I wasn't expecting Lashley to drop the belt here. I was expecting to see Dexter Lumis again because we saw him last week. If WWE really wanted to make it real, they would keep him off TV this week. They would have him show up like 2 weeks later. But even though Triple H is in charge and he's a little bit more rational and logical, it's still WWE, and you know once you see Dexter, you're probably going to see him every week. So I felt like he would be showing up here at some point to either cost AJ Styles the match or perhaps just attack AJ after the match. Either way, maybe attack him to prevent the clean loss to Lashley, but it's also Lashley, and I would have no issue at all with Lashley beating AJ clean. So regardless of the outcome here, if Lashley walked away with the title, I was going to be fine because I feel like he should continue his run as much as I love AJ. But the match was great. It was really fun. Two different size guys with two different styles that meshed very, very well here. And it was a fun little bout for the U.S. title. And in the end, Bobby Lashley did tap out AJ to the Hurt Lock, but we did get what we thought we would get. We got Dexter showing up. So AJ is on the outside of the ring, and Miz and Champa show up. They show up to distract the referee. I think Ciampa's up on the ring apron, and the referee is preoccupied with him. And then the Miz goes around to start messing with AJ, who's laying by the announce table, And as he's about to measure him, wait for him to get up to nail him, you see Loomis now hop the barricade, and he just kind of stands there, and security immediately swarms him. It was I think he hesitated a little bit too long. Like, it was still really well done, and the announcers covered for it perfectly in terms of trying to make it feel as realistic as possible. But I think where Loomis made the mistake is when he jumped over the barricade. He didn't lunge right away. He just stood there and stopped, and then he was swarmed. Like, if he wanted to get to one of those guys, he probably could have if he wanted to, but he was immediately tackled by security and dragged away again. The announcers didn't even mention his name, which I did like. And now you have to wonder what exactly it is that he is up to, because you would assume that he's going to start and he's beginning a feud with AJ Styles here. That seems likely, and that probably is where they're going to go. Although if WWE did another draft, I would love to see AJ go over to SmackDown and have a match with Gunther for the IC title. How good would that be? But if Dexter is indeed going to be starting a program with AJ, then that seems like the most likely option here. But The Miz has been present for both of these appearances as well, because AJ and Miz worked the main event last week, right? And that's where Loomis showed up. So do you think there's a chance that maybe Loomis isn't targeting AJ, he's targeting The Miz? That would be weird. I don't even know how that would work. It would probably be better if he was working with AJ and Loomis. Having a program might be fun, where if Dexter was tormenting Miz, that could be fun too, but I don't know. I don't know where you'd go with that, and I don't know how Champa would fit in, and I don't know what his motivation would be, and I don't know what his motivation is for targeting AJ either. Maybe if they were doing somebody mentioned in the chat earlier, if it's some Vince McMahon storyline, Vince is going to start sending hooded figures, kind of like Retribution, to infiltrate the show or try to take his show back, or I don't know, incite an insurrection. I don't know. Keep a lookout for January 6th coming up next year. Hopefully WWE's got no shows booked for that day. So I don't know what the motivation of Loomis coming in is, but it seems most likely that he's targeting AJ. But there is the off chance that maybe he's going after The Miz, and maybe Maurice. I actually read some report today that she was at the show or booked for the show. I don't think we saw Maurice tonight, but what if she turns up missing? What if Loomis kidnaps her or something? And then you have to see. I don't think they'd go this dark. I just don't. But Miz has always been The Miz. Even when he's a babyface, there's still just there's an aura about The Miz. There's a way about his personality. We all know who he is and how he acts, even when he's a face and when he's a heel. But if they really wanted to get dark and make it like action movie-ish, and they do something where Loomis kidnaps Maurice or whatever, and we see Miz kind of like break down, kind of beg, I'll do whatever you want, just don't harm my wife. Any amount of money you can have, you can have my house, my money, my cars, everything, just please take it. Please don't hurt her hair on her head. Show him crying. Maybe you could finally get some actual real sympathy for The Miz, or some appreciation or acknowledgement that, wow, he did really good in that, or that felt real, or that was believable, or, I don't think he's that great of an actor, but if he could really just pull out like a Tom Hanks performance, and really break down, and we see a side of The Miz that we have never seen before, and it's a side of desperation, not like silly, like bum-ass Corbin, but, just complete, I will literally do anything, fear and desperation, and to do whatever you can do to save your wife. That, I don't know, that might be something, but that would be dark, that would be weird, and it doesn't seem to be what they're up to here, unless they really wanted to swerve us and go in that direction. Otherwise, it looks like Loomis and AJ are headed for some sort of a showdown, and if you want to introduce Loomis to the roster and give him somebody decent to work with, we saw them just do this with Omos. Although Omos needs some work, Loomis has got plenty of experience. Oh, and somebody else mentioned that the Loomis-AJ Styles stuff does stem from their TNA days, because I do think they were there together, and potentially Loomis could use the story that they've had history and AJ held him back. But, that's also, there's not a whole lot of meat on that bone. It's not like WWE talks a whole lot about TNA. They did in the DX biography last night. Did you guys catch that? We'll talk about that in a minute. But anyway, Lashley, like I said, got the win I'm sorry, did I say he tapped him out to the Hurt Lock? He didn't. He one with a spear. I got my shit confused. My bad. I apologize for that earlier on. It was not the hurt lock that AJ tapped out to. It was the spear that he ate after all of the extracurricular stuff with Champa, Miz, and Loomis, all interfering seemingly, not on the behalf of AJ Styles. So Lashley retains, and that's good for him, and we'll see where AJ and Dexter go after that. Here's a match I paid very little attention to because I was starting to get ready for the stream, but Dakota Kai took on Dana Brooke one-on-one, and Dakota Kai won. My notes here says she won. I didn't even see the move she used, so I apologize for not knowing that. Dana Brooke is still the 24/7 champion. The title was not on the line in this match, but I'm ready for that belt to be gone. There has been some talk and rumors and speculation bouncing around the webs about Triple H shit canning it. I believe he should. Maybe, like I mentioned earlier with Cedric and Ali, maybe he just hasn't gotten to it yet. Maybe it's something that's on his list, but he's got a lot of things on his list. And like I mentioned, the dam with the leaking dam with the big holes, plug the big ones, and then you get to some of the smaller ones, and it'll get there eventually. Hell, I tweeted out Triple H last night because as we were watching our SummerSlam 1990 watch along last night, we get to the main event, Ultimate Warrior against Ravishing Rick Rude in the steel cage. And I'm talking to you guys on the chat, not really paying much attention. And all of a sudden, I hear the most god-awful, horrible, cheesy, gaudy sounding music I've ever heard, to the point where I thought my Peacock switched over to a different website and I was playing some crazy stuff or something. And it was just WWE's editing on Peacock, the theme music dubbing that they took off Rick Rude's beautifully classic theme that everybody loves, that fits so well, and they overdub it with this royalty-free crap because they're not going to pay the royalties on a song that I thought they owned. I thought that was a Jim Johnson theme. I know Rude had two themes in WWE. He had his first one, and then he had the one he used, for the last 2 or 3 years he was in the company. So why would you have to dub over that? And if you're doing it just so you can afford to not pay royalties to Jim Johnson or royalties to whoever, how much money can you really be saving? How much money can the WWE be saving by doing this? And what also makes me mad is we're all paying Peacock subscribers. Prior to that, we were paying WWE Network subscribers. They did the same thing on the WWE Network. There are countless examples of horrible theme music editing, and it's really bad on the WCW end of things because all of the themes like Raven and Jericho and DDP, those are all dubbed over. The Hendrix, Hogan, NWO theme, of course, can't be used either. And it really affects the enjoyment of going back and watching these pay-per-views. That's what we pay for. We're paying for that service, for you guys to allow us access to all of your video library. And that should include all of the theme music intact. If there's certain things that you can't release or allow for certain specific reasons that might have more legal issues tied to it or whatever, no problem. But if you're doing it to save a couple of bucks in royalties, you can F the F off. That's so fucked up because we pay for this and we should be able to watch the pay-per-views as they were. And it blows my mind that the company is willing to have a pay-per-view available that Owen Hart died on, but they won't let you hear Ravishing Rick Rude's theme music. Am I the only one that finds that completely out of whack? So that made me mad last night. And so I tweeted Triple H and I said, bro, I know you're busy. We all appreciate how hard you're working, but when you get to it, this is a really small hole in the dam. So I understand he's got other holes. But I said, when you get to it, can we perhaps do something about the horrific theme music dubbing on Peacock? It's an abomination. And I took a video of Rick Rude coming to the ring and posted it. And then I posted my reaction underneath it. So hopefully Triple H will see that and he'll say to Bruce or whoever's carrying his bags, put that on the list. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. So we'll see. Maybe one day the theme music will get better too on Peacock because of Triple H, but he's got a lot of things to fix, and that's just one of probably hundreds of problems that he's going to have to address that will either be able to be fixed or won't be able to be fixed. So we'll see. We got to get back to talking about Raw, though. Dolph Ziggler took on Theory in the main event. Another pretty good match between these two. I'm glad that Theory's getting a chance to work with Dolph. He's a good opponent for him, and he's giving him lots of experience. Ziggler had the match nearly won a couple of times, even had him hit with the zigzag once or twice, and Theory fought back every time. I don't know what they went, maybe 20 minutes or something, and Theory got the win with the A-Town finisher and is back on the winning track after a pretty rough few weeks there, losing the U.S. title and then losing the rematch and then just getting his ass kicked all over the place. The only good moment he had was winning that briefcase, and everything else has been pretty bad for Theory. So now maybe they're going to have some fun with him, build him up a little bit. I'm still not a big Theory fan, but if they continue to push him or whatever, I'm going to be, maybe slightly more accepting of it, because I know now that the reason he's getting the push isn't because Vince randomly likes somebody, because we've seen other people that Vince randomly likes and how bad they fucking suck. So they already put the Money in the Bank briefcase on him right before Vince left, so it's going to be hard to undo that. So maybe Triple H is just trying to make the best of what Vince started and said, well, he's the Money in the Bank briefcase holder now. If I have him lose the briefcase and cash in unsuccessfully, then it's going to bury him. But if we have him successfully cash in, it's going to give him a belt too quick, and the fans are going to reject that too. Either way, it's going to spell bad things for his career. So what if we just try to make the best of it? Let's get him back on track, give him some little mini programs, work with Dolph, work some stuff on Raw, get some more matches, and continue to carry around this briefcase, continue to tease it, and we'll gauge the fan response, and we'll see how he does, and we've got some time to decide. And then when it's time to make a decision on this briefcase, we can decide if he's going to be successful or unsuccessful. But maybe Triple H can kind of do with him what he's got in mind and see how the fans react to it. That might be the only thing they can do at this point, other than humiliating and burying the kid. So, which I don't think, that would be smart to do either. So we'll see where it goes. I'm still not interested in seeing Theory successfully cash that briefcase in, but I have a feeling he's going to hang on to it and tease it for a while. And then it should get way more interesting if WWE ever does wind up separating the two world titles again, which I think might happen after Clash at the Castle or something. When they get back home, they run some angle where maybe they do it at Survivor Series. Survivor Series would be a good place to ununify a title. We'll see if they wind up doing that. But so far, no immediate reports of that. They might just go with the U.S. and the IC, which I think is fine. That was my whole original intent for the title unification when we learned that Brock and Roman at Mania was for both belts. I'm like, oh, good. Maybe WWE can elevate the U.S. and IC now. And, of course, they never did. But once Vince got kicked out, now they're doing what I was hoping they would do, and it's a beautiful thing. Next week, like I said, they already have Edge versus Damian Priest booked for this. That's pretty much all they've got, other than the tag match we know we're going to get in the tag title tournament with Alexa and Asuka taking on Dakota Kai and Io Sky. It is going to be really tough for me to finally get that, but I will. So yeah, they'll take on each other next week. I feel like what they're going to do with the women is Dakota Kai and Io Sky will beat Alexa and Asuka next week and move on to the finals of the women's tag title tournament, and they will win the women's tag title tournament. They're my pick to win. They will then go into, when is the finals for that? The finals can't be at Clash, can they? Because they have a match at the Clash, so they wouldn't book tournament participants in a match at the Clash. That would be something Vince McMahon would do. So hopefully Triple H isn't doing that. I didn't even catch where the finals were going to take place, but you would think it's not going to be there. So I think Dakota Kai and Io Sky will win next week, and I think they will also win the tag team titles, but they will lose the 6-woman match at Clash at the Castle to Bianca, Asuka, and Alexa. That's my view on that, but you guys can kind of fill me in on when that is. Yeah, they need to let the casuals know who Dexter Lumis is. Hardcore fans know, but casuals probably think just a fan jumped the rail. That's true. But I think they're trying to be a little bit subtle about it, and luckily he does have the NXT run, which Vince doesn't know about, and I'm glad that Dexter didn't get called up before. We all thought that he should have. They wound up releasing him, and that sucked, but a lot of us were kind of thinking that he was going to get called up to the main roster. But you almost look back now and you're glad that he wasn't, because could you imagine, based on everything he was doing in NXT and the things that were getting Dexter Lumis over with the fans, could you imagine Vince McMahon understanding any of that? Could you imagine Vince McMahon wanting to continue that direction with him? Vince would simply just look at him and disregard everything he's done. Every single minute of TV he's done in NXT would not even enter Vince McMahon's brain. He would look at him, he'd see his hair, his eyes, his mustache, his look. I see a police officer, Big Boss Man, the sequel, or something like that. He'd just come up with some stupid ass, and it would just ruin everything that he did, or he'd put him in some ridiculous outfit, like those outfits we saw he had planned for FTR. So I'm really glad that Lumis did not come up, a couple years ago. Worked out for the better. Yeah, Parker Boudreaux is now in AEW. He's okay. He was never super impressive to me. He does have the Brock Lesnar comparisons, but I don't believe he's Brock Lesnar. I don't think he's even close. I think Brock Lesnar is way bigger, way stronger, and in way better shape. He's got a little bit of that look to him, but when he was a little Lars Sullivan-ish, and I don't think he's bad or whatever, and I think he can definitely be good because he does have the intensity, and he'll only get better. And I'm surprised WWE cut him loose this quick. I thought they would work with him a little more, but he was another, casualty of the budget cuts, and that might have been a mistake, because if this guy decides to Walter himself or Gunther himself, that shape and the transition that Gunther did to his body, if Parker did that, oh my God, he would have a lot of that Brock Lesnar look. If he got shredded, he got stronger, and he continued to improve in the ring at the same time, AEW might have something there. And I'm sad they released him too, but at least he now has not only a job in AEW, but he's got a faction. He's with Sonny Kiss now. Byron Cutler, do I like your profile pic? I can barely see it. By the way, if you're a member, you've got some fun options for emojis down there that you can add. Just some of that weirdness that you can do. Scrolling back up here to make sure I got all of the comments, because I'm probably going to wrap things up tonight. Okay, good. Yeah, everybody has brought up Dexter to me. We actually have a movie planned for tonight. It's a movie that I've seen, but Elizabeth has not. I saw it 20 years ago and just randomly thought about it. We're going to watch Frailty. Matthew McConaughey and Bill Paxton. It's like a thriller, dark thing. It's crazy. And I remember watching it and really thinking it had a good ending and liked it. So we're going to watch that tonight as we eat steaks. So I think I'm going to be wrapping up the stream here pretty soon. I appreciate you guys hanging out, even though it was kind of a low audience tonight. That's what Mondays can do, but I haven't been up here the last couple of Mondays to do a Raw review, and I wanted to catch up on all we've seen on the Raw brand and the Raw side of things, and to continue to talk about the Triple H era on Monday nights that continues to roll and continues to do well. So we will be back. I anticipate no reason that I won't be here next week to talk about the show in Toronto. It looks like it's going to be a big one. Packed house, Edge and Priest, tag match, possibly a surprise or two Monday. And plus, we're heading into the Clash at the Castle, so next Monday could be a fun one. And we'll be here to talk about it. Thanks again for being here, guys. All of the subscribers, all of the members, everybody who sent a super chat, everybody who asked a question. Thanks again, and I will see you guys for the next stream that is scheduled for Wednesday. We'll be back finally to watch AEW Dynamite together, and it looks like it's going to be a good one. So it's a good time to be a wrestling fan. Enjoy